ESPE Yearbook of Paediatric Endocrinology is now in its 16th year, but continues to evolve every year. As clinicians or researchers, we're inundated with many papers, tables of contents, new journals, and it's hard to keep up with the literature. So what the yearbook does, it engages 13 expert associate editors and the two editors, myself and Zev Hochberg, and they and their team spend a great deal of effort really scouring the literature in their expert fields, so to select the top papers that have come out in the last year, and then to give a brief summary and more importantly a comment on these papers. Just a couple of papers in my chapter. Zev Hochberg and I write a chapter on editor's choice. After all the associate editors have looked at their specialist topics, we scour around other papers, but also papers in other related fields which may not have immediately seem obvious to pediatric endocrinology, but have links. One of these was a paper in PLOS medicine from the Peaches cohort. It may be more of an obstetrical team, but they've identified a new phenomenon called late pregnancy hyperglycemia. So we know that mothers in pregnancy are screened for gestational diabetes by oral glucose tolerance tests at around the mid to later half of pregnancy, around 25 weeks. But they discovered that obese mothers who don't have gestational diabetes on that screen, many of those do go on still to have elevated glucose levels, and their babies appear to have really very much the same features that we associate with classical infants of gestational diabetes. So they have higher birth weights, have higher insulin levels, and therefore at risk of low blood sugars. And in later life, they're at more risk of higher body mass index. And interestingly, now that gestational diabetes, once it's picked up, is managed so well, these infants or children actually who escape this screening process have the worst outcomes, even than those of mothers who develop gestational diabetes earlier and are therefore picked up and managed. So hopefully in due course the obstetricians will improve their management of glucose during pregnancy. But at the moment as pediatricians we should be aware and that infants can be affected by glucose even after the mothers have passed this mid-pregnancy test. So I think that's a really important finding. The other paper comes from an area of epidemiology, genetic epidemiology, and it studies the heritability of body mass index. And you do this by comparing twins who are dizygous or homozygous or identical twins, and you can compare the effect of being genetically identical or not and compute heritability. Many twin studies have done this. The particular feature of this is that they compared groups whether they grew up in so-called obesogenic home environments or more healthy environments. So obesogenic environments, maybe that parents have more snacking or high-calorie foods in the household, more use of TV, computer, media devices, or lower access to physical activity and exercise. And there was a striking difference in heritability of BMI in these young children, 86% in the children in obesogenic homes, compared to about 40% if the homes were healthy. And this shows that BMI, obesity is not either nature or nurture, but the two really interact together. And strikingly, if clinicians or researchers look at estimates of heritability, if, for example, they'd only done the study amongst the obesogenic households, we'd go away thinking that obesity, BMI was 86% heritable, completely dominated by genes, that there was nothing one could do about it. And so having this paper really provides a thoughtful, more mature understanding of heritability and shows that nature and nurture really do interact, and we need to consider both.